Microsoft Notepad. Notepad is a simple text editor for Microsoft Windows and a basic text editing program which enables computer users to create documents. It was first released as a mouse-based MS-DOS program in 1983 and has been included in all versions of Microsoft Windows since Windows 1.0 in 1985. History. Microsoft introduced Multi-Tool Notepad, a mouse-based text editor written by Richard Brody, with the $195 Microsoft mouse in May 1983 at the Spring Comdex Computer Expo in Atlanta. Also introduced at that Comdex was Multi-Tool Word, designed by Charles Simonyi to work with the mouse. Most watching Simonyi's demonstration had never heard of a mouse. Microsoft released the Microsoft Mouse in June 1983, and the boxed mouse and multi-tool notepad began shipping in July. Initial sales were modest, as there was little one could do with it except run the 3 demonstration programs included in the box: a tutorial, practice application, and notepad, or program interfaces to it. The multi-tool product line began with expert systems for the multi-plan spreadsheet. On the suggestion of Roland Hansen, who also convinced Bill Gates to change the name Interface Manager to Windows before the release of Windows 1.0, the multi-tool name was killed by the time Word shipped in November 1983. Hansen's rationale was that the brand is the hero. People didn't associate the standalone name multi-tool with Microsoft, and Hansen wanted to make Microsoft the hero, so Microsoft name replaced multi-tool. Features. Notepad is a common text-only plain text editor. The resulting files, typically saved with the .txt extension, have no format tags or styles, making the program suitable for editing system files to use in DOS environment, and occasionally source code for later compilation or execution, usually through a command prompt. It is also useful for negligible use of system resources, making for quick load time and processing time, especially on underpowered hardware. Notepad supports both left-to-right and right-to-left based languages. Historically, Notepad did not treat new lines in Unix or classic macOS style text files correctly. However, on 8th of May 2018, Microsoft announced that they had fixed the issue. Notepad offers the most basic text manipulation functions, such as finding text. Only newer versions of Windows include an updated version of Notepad with a search and replace function. However, it has much less functionality in comparison to full-scale editors. In all versions of Windows, Notepad uses a built-in Windows class named Edit, and the maximum file size that Notepad can open is dependent on operating system limitations on the size of the added window class, with the limit being different for each version of Windows. Due to the operating system limit of the added window class, the notebook version shipped with Windows 3.0, Windows 3.1, and Windows 3.11 cannot open files larger than 54 kilobytes, and Microsoft recommended not to open files larger than 45 kilobytes, with the official workaround advice provided by Microsoft being use another text editor. But this limit was extended to 64 kilobytes in Windows 95 and remained the same in Windows 98 and Windows ME, with users now directed to WordPad to open larger files. The Notepad version shipped with Windows XP, the limit was 32 megabytes, with the application displaying the message, "The file is too large for Notepad. Use another editor to edit the file," if the user attempted to open a file larger than 32 megabytes. Newer versions of Notepad can open files at least up to 58 megabytes in size, and on Windows 8.1, the Notepad application is able to open files at least as large as 512 megabytes, but fails to open 1 gigabyte files displaying the same message that Windows XP users would see. The file is too large for Notepad. Use another editor to edit the file. Up to Windows 95, Fixedasys was the only available display font for Notepad. Windows NT 4.0 and 98 introduced the ability to change this font. As of Windows 2000, the default font was changed to Lucida Console. The font setting, however, only affects how the text is shown to the user and how it is printed, not how the file is saved to the disk. The default font was changed to Consolas on Windows 8. Up to Windows ME, there were almost no keyboard shortcuts and no line counting feature. Starting with Windows 2000, shortcuts for common tasks like New, Open, and Save were added, as well as a status bar with the line counter, available only when word wrap is disabled. In the Windows NT based versions of Windows, Notepad can edit traditional 8-bit text files as well as Unicode text files, both UTF-8 and UTF-16, and in case of UTF-16, both Little Endian and Big Endian. Notepad also had a simple built-in logging function. Each time a file that starts with .log is opened, the program inserts a text timestamp on the last line of the file. Notepad accepts text from the Windows clipboard. When clipboard data with multiple formats is pasted into Notepad, the program only accepts text in the CF_text format. This is useful for stripping embedded font type and style codes from formatted text, such as when copying text from a web page and pasting it to an email message or other WYSIWYG text editor. Formatted text can be temporarily pasted into Notepad and then immediately copied again in stripped format to paste into another program. Notepad can print files, but doesn't print correctly if word wrap is turned on. Headers, footers, and margins can be set and adjusted when preparing to print a file under page setup. The date, file name, and other information can be placed in the headers and footers with various codes consisting of an ampersand followed by a letter. Unicode detections. Main article, Bush hid the facts. The Windows NT version of Notepad, installed by default on Windows 2000 and Windows XP, had the ability to detect Unicode files even when they are missing a byte word or mark. To do this, it utilizes a Windows API called isTextUnicode. However, this function is imperfect, incorrectly identifying some all lowercase ASCII text as UTF-16. As a result, Notepad interprets a file containing the phrase like AAA, AAAA, AAA, AAAA, 4335 as 2-byte encoded Unicode text file and attempts to display it as such. If a font with support for Chinese installed, 9 Chinese characters display. Other, it displays squares instead of Chinese characters. Some people misinterpreted this issue for an Easter egg. Many phrases that fit the pattern, including "this app can break" and "Bush hid the facts," appear on the web as hoaxes. Windows expert Raymond Chen correctly attributed it to the Unicode detection algorithm. This issue was resolved in Windows Vista and newer versions of Notepad. Competing software. Notepad does not require a lock on the file if it opens, so it can open files already opened by other processes, users, or computers, whereas WordPad cannot. Also, since Notepad lacks advanced formatting functionality, many people find it simple, minimalistic user interface, whose look has never changed since 3.1, and whose menus were last altered in Windows XP when Format and View replaced Search, faster and easier to use for basic text operations. The MS-DOS editor, especially as updated in Windows 95, where it became an MDI application, also provides many features never offered by Notepad. There are many third-party replacements for Notepad with additional functionality, including both free software, e.g. Notepad++ and Notepad 2, and freeware, TED Notepad. Notepad lacks many basic features available in other text editors such as Block Select and MDI. Notepad being a basic text editor, advanced features are missing: syntax coloring, code folding, regular expressions, macros, support of code pages, and color schemes. See also Comparison of text editors, List of text editors, and XML Notepad.